Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. My name is Mike Redman. I am your host here tonight, and filling in for my brother, we have Tevin Powell is here. We've had him on once before for the debut of the Raw episode at the Intuit Dome back in January on Netflix. Welcome back, Tevin. Glad to have you back on here. And we have Joe, JPJ at JPJ Loves Gaming with us. We are going to talk all things Money in the Bank and some other relevant WWE news at this time. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. And before we get into the fun introductions and get to know everybody just a little bit, we have a word from our sponsors, our fine sponsors over at Nashville Tax Solutions. You'll see their ticker there at the bottom of the screen. So if you forget anything that I go over here in this intro, feel free to contact them, phone, email, that sort of thing. But whether you need to file years of missing returns, a current year return, or you need relief from a tax lien or levy, Nashville Tax Solutions has the solution for you. Our expert team of tax professionals are dedicated to providing personalized solutions tailored to your unique situation. Don't let tax problems weigh you down. Contact Nashville Tax Solutions today and let them guide you towards a brighter financial future. Please call Nashville Tax Solutions in with offices in both Palm Bay and now in Fort Pierce at 855-627-4829 and check out on their website at nashvilletaxsolutions.com or by email at info@nashvilletaxsolutions.com, where tax resolution is achieved. And so, Chris, if you are watching, thank you so much for yourself and the team, all the great work that you do, that great event that you just had in Nashville with the likes of Jelly Roll and some other country music artists, Reba McEntire, I believe, Tim McGraw. Great work that you guys do. And just thank you for believing us from day one. When we were just under 100 subscribers, you locked arms with us, partnered with us, and we greatly appreciate that. So with that said, with all that out of the way, we wanted to thank each and every one of you for joining us here tonight. We just hit the 2,600 subscriber plateau, which is awesome. Just a few subs shy, actually, of 2,700. And so tonight we are talking, like I mentioned, with Joe and Tevin. So we'll go around quick introductions, and then we'll get into why we are here, talking all things WWE. So, Tevin, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself first.
Yeah, I think some people should remember me. My name is Tevin. I was here for the live Monday Night Raw on Netflix, the first show here with Mike. That was a great time. Just a casual viewer who, like anything casual, I just get really deep-rooted into it. But, got a love for WWE. I got a love for the whatever they're putting out there, and it's a great friend of Mike. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Yes, and JPJ, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, just like same thing, introducing yourself and where anyone watching this can find you on your social medias.
Yeah, I'm JPJ. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to hopping on here. You can find me at JPJ Loves Gaming on all social media platforms. I do have a Twitch as well where we play some games over there as well, mainly MLB The Show, big baseball guy there. And that's a good time. And you can find me over on LoveWrestlingCA. I do a couple podcasts over there, Between Two Beards with my man Pluggo and Firmly Inc. And I do some work with bodyslam.net as well. And we just, I got some stuff going on with a new site that's been launched called The Hive Media as well. So I do a lot of stuff on the wrestling side of things. So that's where you can find me. If you follow me anywhere, you'll see all the notifications and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah. And the baseball connection, that was, I was like, I got to have you on. When I saw that, just two of my favorite things for sure. Kind of consumes a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one of the things that we talk about in this podcast is there so much thing as too much content? Because it feels like there were two PLEs, quote unquote, yesterday and the same day. I
Mhm.
think, and let's start there if that's cool with you guys. So we're watching the beginning of Money in the Bank, and the women's Money in the Bank ladder match kicks off the show, kind of expected, right? But we see, and at least that's the first thing I can see, is you hear the sold out Intuit Dome, and then you see empty seats, 60% of the arena with that drone shots and whatnot. And the first thing that went through my head is not that they're lying, they're sold out. It was, they're probably all trying to get here because they were at Worlds Collide and they're stuck in traffic and they can't get in. Or maybe they went home and changed and were like, oh, we'll miss the first match and rest a little bit. But Joe, what are your thoughts on did you kind of echo those same sentiments and you saw that? Did it kind of distract you a little bit? Or
I wouldn't say it distracted me, but it was noticeable. It was noticeable at first. I mean, I'm from Boston, so I have certain feelings about Los Angeles. However, it's 4:00 in the afternoon there. A lot of them are probably coming from Worlds Collide. The traffic is terrible. And I think just in general, like if you watch any big game any LA, they're a late arriving crowd. They don't always get there at first. They're very, they kind of get there. If you watch any Laker game, it's not really full until, approaching the end of the first quarter, early second quarter. It's a late arriving crowd. So I can imagine maybe those were all the factors. But at first it was very noticeable. And I was like, oh, that kind of stinks, because I thought the ladies' Money in the Bank was the match I was looking forward to. I thought that's pairing of all 6 of those women, that was very exciting to me. And I was like, man, that stinks that there's missing seats. But it felt like by the end of that match, the arena was kind of ready, full. And
I know they wouldn't, but I was kind of hoping, because of the late minute add-on, I was kind of hoping to see Octagon and Dominic. Not that it was the least of, but they would give everyone there a chance to see the full women's Money in the Bank match. If they didn't. But of course they're going to stick, start off with that, understandably so. But so yeah, let's jump into that first match there, women's Money in the Bank. It was funny because if you watch a lot of content here on social media, of course, and dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff, across the board, it seemed like Naomi was the attractive pick there. A lot of people were saying, oh, so-and-so didn't need it because they are just really been there for a cup of coffee, haven't been there long enough to really, they don't really need it, that sort of thing. And same with Rhea Ripley, doesn't really quite need that. She's already a main event star. So kind of all signs pointed to Naomi, but you were still kind of not sure if they'd pull the trigger. So Tevin, let me ask you this question. Number one, was Naomi your pick? And then number two, why do you think it is that everyone seems to always want the heel to go with the Money in the Bank versus a face? Is it easier for them storytelling, long-term booking, to go with a heel for that role, you think?
So first question, personally, I wanted Roxanne Perez to win because I watched that. I got back into WWE watching NXT. And so watching her shine and watching her like come up to the main roster. I know Stephanie McKeer and Gilead did too, but Roxanne Perez was my pick for this match. She did great, but all props to Naomi. And I think definitely having a heel as the holder to the Money in the Bank, and we'll talk about Seth Rollins later because that man, it's going to be a run. But definitely, I think having a heel hold that power and watching them tease and torment the crowds and the champion and saying, "Hey, am I going to cash in now?" Nope, not yet. They're going to keep those on the edge of our seats. I think it's hard for a face to have that because it's kind of like a dirty move, like "Hey, I'm taking your title right now." So it's hard for a face to do it and pull it off successfully. I think it's easier for a heel, and so I think especially for Naomi, this is her first win or her first Money in the Bank match. So I think it's kind of like not a gimme to her, but it's kind of like a, hey, you're doing good. Let's make this transition a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And JPJ, like your thoughts too, because sometimes you think, okay, someone's cashing in. Like I can't help but go back to my favorite cash in of all time when Dolph Ziggler cashed it in, the crowd reaction. So I think in my brain sometimes I'm like face, like I want that guy where it's like, oh, he's finally cashing, like, so I want that reaction. Like, of course, like Solo Sikoa was absolutely the wrong pick. Like if anybody was going to win that match, he was the least of. I do like some of his work recently. Like I like a little bit of the comedic. I like the different things he did in the match, kind of picking on LA Knight and Penta and stuff. But he would be the perfect example of no reaction when he was going to cash it in. There wouldn't be excitement there. They're trying to build him up a little bit, but so do you kind of echo the same thing? That's why you think, JPJ, that the heels are the better. You agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, naturally, the cashing in is more of a heel move than the babyface move. And I think if you look at the history of it, there's only been a very few babyface like that have been successful. All the big pops like Ziggler, right? Ziggler was a heel. He was a heel when he cashed in. It was just everyone was so he was a heel that people liked, like he was cool and like, but he was technically a heel that whole time. But when he cashed in, everybody was so excited and he had held it for a while and so like the reaction was babyface, but he was technically a heel, so it's like I do feel like heels naturally it's easier for them to have the case because cashing in after they have a hard fought match and then they cash in after the match, it's a heelish move. You know what I mean? Like that's a heel thing to do. So I just think it works better for them. I feel like we've seen a lot of baby faces do the I'm going to challenge you with notice thing. That hasn't worked at all. So I think it's harder for a baby face to do it. And we saw 2 heels win last night. So,
we did. Some of the exciting moments in that match, of course, Stephanie Vakir, talk about MVP of the weekend. They couldn't set it more. I wasn't getting turned off by it, but I don't know if you guys picked up on that too, but the amount of times they mentioned 3 fights in 24 hours, it brought me back to Big Dog and the Boss, like in terms of like the over pushing of that. But that's, that is a great feat though. But she nevertheless, Devil's Kiss on Ripley on the ladder, that brought the crowd excitement to a whole new level. Of course, the dueling code reds with Alexa Bliss and Roxanne Perez was awesome. But Naomi stands tall at the end. There was really nobody else around there. And it was just a great visual. And you saw her get a little bit emotional if you watched the post game or the after the show. And then she quickly, like, it was almost like she like paused. She was about to lose it a little bit. And then she just went into full blown heel. It was great to see. And, she showed that respect for Big E, of course, but just well-deserved. And I'm excited for this. I enjoyed her first title victory, but back in the day, that was when we had the one night WrestleMania and she won that title in what seemed to be hour 6.5, almost like a current AEW pay-per-view that goes on and on and on and on. It was that kind of vibe. So I'm a big fan of the 2-night WrestleMania because of that, by that time, I remember it was like the nachos were almost gone. Wasn't a lot of good finger foods left around the table. And I was ready to go home. And it was still, I think she had the second to last match of the night. So well-deserved here in that one. So that takes us to, of course, the match that was made earlier in the afternoon at Worlds Collide, Dominic Mysterio and Octagon. JPJ, your thoughts on that, how that played out and anything that you really liked from that matchup?
I thought this was a fun sprint. This was a nice little quick match. It was fast-paced. I thought Dom was really good in this match. This was again, Octagon Jr. pulling double duty because he was a part of a multi-man tag match earlier in the night. Earlier in the day, I'm sorry. I don't know, and I know we're not talking about it, but that Worlds Collide show was very fun. Like, that was a great show. And Money in the Bank had a little bit to live up to because that was really, really good. And that was really the first time I had seen him wrestle for the most part. So when they added this match at that show, I was like, oh, all right. And it was just a sprint. It was the quickest match on the card, but it was a nice little sprint. And I thought both guys did what it had to do. And it was a no-brainer that Dom was keeping the belt. But it was fun and entertaining.
And what I liked about it too, I've been critical of AEW product. I think they've been improving a little bit. Of course, the storytelling is still a little bit lack. But what made that trios match so entertaining, at least on my end, and Tevin, I don't know if you agree, was that just in that match alone, yes, we knew some of the people already from NXT, WWE, that sort of thing, but it felt like they already gave them an identity. Like, of course, like you're going to see, and they already panned them out in the crowd. Who I'm talking about from the green guy there. It seems like they just had an identity to them, and instantly right off the bat. And I know they're trying to not change too much, but right there, if that's the one change, I'm all about that because it felt like you got to know a little bit of each person. I think that's the downfall of a lot of these trios matches. Collision, it just seems like luchador tag match after luchador tag match. You don't really know who's who, what identifies this one from that one. It feels like Tony's kind of just playing with action figures sometimes with some of these matches, and I really want them to succeed. So I thought it was a fun show, and a lot of people critical of some of the antics there in the opening match, kind of comparing it to Orange Cassidy, and I'm like, let's have fun. Like, let's stop complaining about everything.
Yeah.
It was a fun open, great show all the way around. So yeah, definitely, if we had some more time, definitely want to tackle that show as well. But a great fun time to be had there. So, and so Tevin, from there, of course, we went into the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyrie. Your thoughts on how that played out? It's been a nice little feud there. I think Lyra has really stepped up her game. You know, a lot of criticism on Charlotte Flair in terms of her just the direction of her character, whatnot. But if there's one thing Becky does well, is she puts other people in a better position than when they started, not just in the ring, but on the mic. And so I was happy with this outcome, but what were your thoughts on how that all went down?
Yeah, so I'll admit this was, I don't want to say my least favorite, but the one that I wasn't the most excited for on the card. But definitely, like, both women, they did their thing. They came out there, they did great. Personally, would have liked to see Stan Valkyria. I don't know. I'm like, maybe because I'm so used to NXT. I'm used to seeing like the young stars come up. So I'm always rooting for the young ones. And for Becky, I know like she was had the women's title before, and then she took that break off to like go spend with her daughter, and she came back. But I don't know, like seeing her with the IC title, like I see it's like kind of like a here's your step back in the door. But I don't want to say it's a step down, but the man is capable of a lot more than the IC title, in my opinion.
Yeah, to see that, you know, part of me, you mentioned Roxanne Perez early. I would love to see, you know, it would have been great if she won that match. I feel like certain people, just to build that, I'd like to see them get the IC strap first or the US strap first and then bump up to there. Yeah. So by putting on Becky, what it does is it gives someone like that a marquee win, and then it can elevate them quicker. But yeah, it is a little bit awkward. But you know, at the end of the day, it's adding a new title to her wrestling.
Yeah, I also think someone like Becky Lynch winning that title elevates that title. I mean, Becky Lynch is an all-timer. So now she's the IC champion. So that should be a title that everybody wants because Becky Lynch has been an intercontinental. You know what I mean? So I think, and now you potentially have Bayley coming back to feud with Becky for the IC title. Those are two of the GOATs. So you have both of them fighting for the IC title. Immediately, that IC title is more important. And that's not a deterrent in Lyra because Lyra has been knocking it out of the park since this feud has started. And I think the end game is you have Bayley and Becky feud for that title to elevate the title. And then eventually Lyra is going to win it back from Becky. And then they'll move up to the main roster and Lyra will be an even bigger star than she's kind of already been made by Becky. And not just, I mean, she's earned it too, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah. And I really hope we see Lyra continue on that trajectory. Kind of like that NXT guy gets the North American Championship, goes for the heavyweight championship, holds it for a little bit, gets on the main roster. Hopefully we see that with her. That was a lot of the knock on the product. When Triple H first really started taking the full reins back over, he was giving the women TV time, which is what we've all been asking for. But we look at Ivy Nile, we look at Tegan Knox at the time, Dakota Kai at the time, just a lot of other names that even Natalia. They were just getting on TV, but there was just nothing to really, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, there's just nothing to sink your teeth into. And now we have that personality with Lyra Valkyria. And so I'm really hoping, you know, like we know it's going to probably be Becky and Bayley. So it'd be interesting to see which direction, but there's a slew of talent on Monday Night Raw for her to feud with. I think Roxanne Perez would be a great next story right there. So see what happens from there. And then it just kept going, of course, to the not the main event, but the match that most people were looking forward to, and that was the men's Money in the Bank, El Grande Americano, Solo Sikoa, Andrade, LA Knight, Seth Rollins, and Penta. And so across the board, and JPG, I'll go to you first here. Across the board, the favorite would seem to be Seth Rollins, but LA Knight was the most the person that most people wanted to win. It made the most sense. A few guys there you knew weren't going to have a chance in that one. So do you feel, Mike, let me ask you this question. So I agree with you that Becky elevates the IC title, but does someone like Seth Rollins need this Money in the Bank spot where it could have gone to someone like an LA Knight who this is his third year now, didn't win it? Or are you okay with that? I'll share my thoughts at the end there, but I'm interested in your thoughts.
I'm okay with Seth Rollins being okay. So Seth Rollins, in my opinion, should not have won that match. He doesn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase. He should be able to get the title from Jay without the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think LA Knight should have won it. personally. With that being said, I love Seth Rollins. So I'm not upset. Like, I like the group they're building. I like everything they're doing with Seth. I just think the way they portrayed Seth as kind of being the guy that's taking over Monday Night Raw with his group and what he's doing, I don't think the Money in the Bank briefcase was necessary to him. Like, I don't think that does anything for him. Like, it doesn't elevate him. Like, he's already at that top level. So I feel like putting that on somebody like LA Knight would have finally been, at least to a lot of fans, been like, okay, they believe in this guy. All right, they're actually putting that on him. So now he's not just going to be flirting with the top. Like, they believe that he can be a world champion. And I felt like it should have, and it was in Los Angeles. I don't know. It just made sense to me. I felt like LA Knight should have won. The match was great.
And do you ever, Kevin, let me ask you, because I love that and I agree with that. And so tagging on that, do you feel that sometimes, like with Seth, the guy all along, do you feel like sometimes they are like, oh, it's predictable, let's change it up, let's switch things out? Do you feel like, in your perspective, was this a reactive move because of this, everyone on social media really going for LA Knight there, or do you just feel like that was the plan all along, that they wanted Seth Rollins in that spot for whatever reason, a guy who could just have a main event match pretty much whenever he wants? I would have preferred, if they're going to go that route with that stable, it would have been better suited for a guy like Bronson Reed or Braun Breaker. But what are your thoughts?
I think this is already planned out. Just seeing like the way that like the whole feud with CM Punk and Roman Reigns panned out, Paul Heyman switching over, them getting Braun Breaker, them getting Bronson Reed. I feel like everything's happening in stages, and I can't remember word for word what Seth Rollins said like a month ago, but he said that something like to the effect of, he's the future of wrestling. To that effect. And so I feel like he's carrying out his words. And Paul Heyman says it's not a prediction. It's a what is it?
Spoiler.
It's a spoiler. Yeah, there we go. It's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. And so I think Seth Rollins, he said something, and now they're gonna follow through on it. Kind of like with John Cena. John Cena says, I'm coming to ruin wrestling. And what does he do? He wears the belt backwards, he takes all the lights and pyro out of his entrance. Like, he's ruining wrestling. He's doing it. And so I think it's just Seth Rollins was the man all along, and he's going to do what he said he's going to do. It's a spoiler. He's coming in. He's the future of wrestling. He has his group of young guys who are going to be great. They got both the bronze. He has the brains with Paul Heyman, and now he has the Money in the Bank. So he has the power. He has arguably the most power in the WWE right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really does. And I feel like eventually some people are like, who's the fourth man? Like, let's pause a little bit. Let's wait till Survivor Series come. Now, I know this is off topic, but I go down rabbit holes all the time. Just a quick sidebar, if that's okay. Commercial break. War games. I love war games, but we don't necessarily have to have war games to have war games. Like, if this year they decided to do, or any year, decide to go back to the traditional, more than just one traditional Survivor Series. I've been wanting that for quite a while now. Just go back to a traditional Survivor Series card. Doesn't have to be every single match, but I don't know. That's just me. Like, if it's there, then awesome. Like, if it's that stable against, a conglomerate of Roman and Solo and all that stuff, great, fine, but it doesn't have to be forced. Your thoughts real quick, JPJ, on that whole thing, in terms of war games. Like, you feel like that's what they're eventually going towards, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would think they probably will do something with Seth's stable. I wouldn't mind because I can see kind of what they're doing on the ladies' side of things too. But yeah, I think it's Seth's group versus, whatever superpowers on the babyface side you're going to throw in there, Jay, Sammy, Cody, whatever they're going to do. That's what I probably would believe. And obviously they'll probably team up, it'll be them three with two other big heels going against, I would assume Roman might be back by that point. You get kind of the super group over there and go from there.
So, Tevin, if there was a fourth man added to that stable, or female, who would that person be, or who do you think the right choice is for that spot?
Man, early on as a third person, I was thinking Austin Theory. But man, now that they have the bronze, I say bronze because it's Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, but they're both bronze, like they're both like two big dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And my early thought is still Austin Theory. They'll somehow try to break up A-Town Down Under and bring him over, and maybe go down to NXT and pull somebody up. Because Seth Rollins has had his way around the locker room, and a lot of people do not like him.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a big, beefy, meaty guy. I think to me, the one person, I mean, I'd like to see Karrion Kross, but it looks like he may not even resign. The contract hasn't been signed yet. I'm not sure what's going on. The one guy that's kind of fallen away these last 3 months, the guy I would put there, wouldn't be a big splash, but his trajectory could really use it, and they could use that kind of personality there, would be a Ludwig Kaiser. I think that'd be kind of interesting. He's kind of really just stuck in limbo right now, and again, and not for that spot, but just got me thinking about Ilya Dragunov's got to be coming back any day now. His name has been completely missing in action, but he's got to be due to be back anytime now. And just a quick shout out, there are 16 of you guys watching along, so let us know that you are here. Appreciate it. Joe's waving along. Joe just went to Atomic Legacy Wrestling here in Cocoa Beach, Florida this past weekend. They had a big show there. Nice promotion. If you've never heard of Atomic Legacy Wrestling, definitely check them out. They're doing very historic for an indie promotion to do this, but they are running a show at the Daytona Beach Ocean Center in July, Star Spangled Banner 7. Ton of great athletes. They got a match on that card with Dolph Ziggler and Matt Cardona. I've got Shelton Benjamin on the card as well. Odyssey Jones is there. Couple of Babatunde, a bunch of other talents from WWE, AEW, all that sort of stuff. So just wanted to give them a shout out. So, but yeah, I'm glad you had a great time, Joe. We are talking, Joe, about Money in the Bank yesterday, and that takes us, of course, to the main event, which was an odd choice for a match. We were all kind of confused why this, at least I was. It's just a reason to get these people on the card. I think the criticisms are fair, but JPJ, your thoughts on this? I feel like this match was made to get the star power on the show, but because they, for whatever reason, decided we're going to go to the next show 3 weeks later. It seemed like from Rumble to Mania, we had a nice build there, maybe a little bit too long of a build. Here, it's just like 3 weeks, PLE, 3 weeks, PLE. So I feel like that's why we got this tag team match. They just threw it together. Thank God it was not Travis Scott. I'm becoming more of a Logan. Yeah, I'm becoming more of a Logan Paul guy just because, I'm not going to buy his merch or anything like that, but I'm getting used to him in that role, let's just say. But it did feel like he was there to take the pin. I was surprised that wasn't the case, but your thoughts on how that match came about? Were you kind of upset that that's the route they went? Did you kind of understand it and that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. John Cena, he's going to main event the show. John Cena is going to main event the show. And Cody coming back, it was his first match back since WrestleMania. So I understand. I also think with the two world champions, there he is. This is my man. Plug out between two beers, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. Love wrestling. No, but I think with the two world champions being in the tag match main event, it also had that intrigue of Seth potentially cashing in as well, because that happened right before. So it's like, oh, could there be a cash in tonight? Because that happened. So that's another thing that I was thinking about. My thing is, this match was like a tale of two matches. Like the first 10 or 15 minutes, they were doing like a lot of heat spots where it was like, and I was like, what the hell is this? What is going on? But then the last 10 minutes were a blast. And it was like, okay, why didn't you just do the last 10 minutes the whole time? That would have been, but yeah, I mean, look, it's Cody, it's John Cena, it's Logan Paul. And like you said, I'm getting you, Logan, the way that I put it is I don't like Logan Paul for obvious reasons why a lot of people probably don't like Logan Paul. All right. But Logan Paul is good enough that I can accept where he is. I can accept where he is because he's good enough at doing the thing that I can accept where he is. I think that's how my mindset is when it comes to Logan Paul.
So yeah, I think, and not for nothing, that's that whole drone superplex spot.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
It just proves, just being innovative and creative and something we haven't seen before. So I can appreciate that. So Tevin, your reaction, of course, the elephant in the room, the guy in the hoodie that came in the ring, and when he started hitting those punches and the back of his, at least I noticed, the back of his sweatshirt came up a little bit. I was like, oh, I was kind of like that pause, like, but that, no. What was your, I love, on social media, a lot of people record their expressions on how these things happen. But what was your reaction to that? I'm curious.
So my reaction to that was I was keeping up with it, like the whole match, the whole night. And then I stopped to go put my daughter to sleep. And then I picked back up my phone to keep watching it. And it's at that moment. And all I see is somebody sliding in. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm like, who's attacking John Cena right now? Like everybody's laid out on the floor. Like I just missed like this was it Logan Paul somersault over to the Jey Uso on the table. Everybody's like, I'm like, what's going on? Like I just missed like not even a minute. And so I'm like, okay, like trying to figure out what's going on. And then in my mind, I'm just like, it's R-Truth. It has to be. Because that's such an R-Truth thing to get released, announce it, and then still come back to work.
Yes.
Still comes back to work. That's an R-Truth thing to do. I love it. But man, my reaction, I'm glad I didn't wake my daughter up with my reaction. But man, it was just it was so crazy. Just to zone out for a second and then come back and see that. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. And JPJ, I'm gonna ask you the same exact question, but before I do, Tevin and I were talking on the sidebar conversations the last week. You know, how awesome would it be if he did show up in TNA where he thought it was still WWE and he's like, you know, hey, where's John Cena at? Well, he doesn't work here. You know, that would have been classic R-Truth. But JPJ, it looks like we're not getting R-Truth. It looks like we're getting Ron Killings, part of the deal in terms of that maybe more serious character. But so your same question, your thoughts, and then where do you think this is going?
I loved it. Listen, I know there's been a lot of dialogue of whether it was a work or it was I don't believe it was a work. I think that they actually weren't going to re-sign him. And then they heard, I think for them, more importantly, I think the locker room was loud about it as well as the fans were loud about it. And I think they noticed both of those situations and they said, okay. And they, you know, at least they listened to somebody. Which is a good thing. And I thought it was a great moment. And it's a moment a guy like that deserves. He's been here for 30, like he's been doing this for 30 years almost. And he's been entertaining and funny at every level. And he's been good. And, you know, when he made that announcement last week, I think that like kind of the heart of the wrestling community got broken a little bit. And everybody was like, oh man, that stinks. And for them to, you know, however it went down, for him to have that moment last night, and now it's going to be. I know it's crazy, but like it's not going to happen. But I want him to beat John Cena for that title.
Yeah, I kind of want John Cena out of the main event picture for a little while, just because like his matches aren't quite what you know. But yeah, no, like it's crazy. I feel like this deal. I don't know. Eventually, one of the outlets will release what the terms are, but I feel like this is a safe face. Like let's go out one final run here for however long it is. Doesn't necessarily have to be a championship run, but that way you can go out on your terms and not kind of like that ugly way of business and that sort of thing. So we'll see, but they already announced John Cena for tomorrow night's Raw, so we'll probably get a pretty quick turnaround to that. So I'm excited for that. And of course, big main event tomorrow night is Gunther and Jey Uso with potentially Seth Rollins hovering in the back there. So what I wanted to go to next, Tevin, I'll go to you first. So now, again, we're here 3 weeks later. They're going back to Saudi Arabia for yet another PLE, but they announced the King and the Queen of the Ring. And I love that there's some fatal four-ways in there, so it's a little bit different. They kind of had to rush through the brackets a little bit. Yeah. But the key that I took away over anything is, and it's a quick way to build a pay-per-view. You don't really have to do too much to tell a story. But what I loved about it is they announced that the winners of the King and the Queen of the Ring matches will get to face the champion of their choosing at SummerSlam. So your thoughts on that part of it?
Yeah, I think I like what they're trying to do, especially since adding in the new belts, especially to the women's side, trying to give more people opportunity to actually compete for it and try to get some more compelling stories. I feel especially on the women's side, because I feel like on the women's, like especially talk about like we mentioned Survivor Series before, like you get to War Games and it's like all of a sudden all these women who don't really like each other, they're suddenly friends and now they're all locked in the cage together trying to fight, and it's like they didn't really fit the story to begin with. And so I think this like opportunity to fight, get a chance, get the opportunity to say, hey, I'm picking my title fight. And then also for the men too. So maybe hopefully this could be a chance for, like an LA Knight, someone who deserves it, or, give it to somebody like a Braun Breaker who's newer, who could definitely use like an extra push to let them know like, hey, these young guys are here and they're here to do some damage.
Yeah. One of the comments Triple H made during his press conference last night was, we got to be patient and good things come to those who wait. But it's like, sometimes you got to strike while the iron's hot. So they're going to have to move quickly. Hopefully, with the draft, if that happens, I really want a good draft. Like, can they get it right already? Like, feels like they constantly, when they have them, it's always not what you always get excited. This is the time that the draft's going to be really good. and then something wonky happens. So JPJ, your thoughts on just where they're going in terms, if you had to crystal ball, magic 8 ball here. So starting with the women in terms of this tournament, I'll go first. I would like to see, as a fan, I'm not going to say this is what they're going to do. As a fan, to me, and I know it's moving really quickly, but for me, I would go with Stephanie Vakir and Io Sky at SummerSlam. That's the match, in my opinion. No idea if that's going to happen, but I want to go to you next. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's who I think would have to be one of the early favorites, would be Stephanie winning Queen of the Ring. I could see Roxanne being involved. I think that could be the final. If you could be honest, it's going to be somebody like that. It's going to be, one of those people. But I think I wouldn't have been shocked if Stephanie won that Money in the Bank match yesterday as well. You know what I mean? Like, that's how quickly I think she's going to ascend to the top of everything. So I think she, on the women's side, is definitely my pick and my favorite as of now. Obviously, we don't really know who's going to be qualifying. They're doing the 4-ways and all the stuff like that, but I assume she'll be there. Her or Roxanne would be my 2 favorites on the women's side. And on the men's side, I mean, I would love it for Bronson Reed. If you're going to continue, if you're going to build Steph stable. But again, I feel like a guy like LA Knight, I know Tevin mentioned him, LA Knight, it's kind of, at some point you got to do it. It's been 3 years now, man, where he's been he's been flirting with it. He had the one match with Roman, which was good. Like, at some point, you got to let us know that this guy is legitimately going to be a world champion. Because if you don't, there's only a certain amount of time before he's not going to be over anymore, because nobody's going to think he's legit. So it needs to happen.
Yeah, it needs to happen. And is SummerSlam, LA Knight, and that's the thing, is SummerSlam with LA Knight's name on the marquee? It is a 2-night show, but is that that's what, and they're almost putting themselves in that position now, unfortunately. But the one thing I'm curious about is Seth's got the Money in the Bank. Like, can they afford to, with Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, to just kind of pause and just be like, the beef for like 6 months before they move forward? At some point, one of them's got to go. They're not going to go to the other show. They're stable unless they're taking over both shows. I would personally love to see that show on SmackDown. And that's one topic we're going to get into next, actually, is SmackDown staying at 3 hours. I think it should be a 2-hour show. At the 3-hour show, though, this past Friday was the first time since the 3-hour SmackDowns that I felt like Mission Impossible. Like, it didn't feel like a 3-hour movie. That didn't feel like a 3-hour SmackDown. It's because we had access to the entire roster. You don't have to utilize them on every single show, but I think it's 2025. I think we're okay to do away with the brand split. That's just me yelling at the clouds, though. Not going to happen. But I'm okay with them getting away from that. And you can make it CM Punk next week on Raw. He doesn't have to show up Monday and Friday. So, but your thoughts on Tevin, on let's go there next, on the 3-hour SmackDown. Is that too long? Is that, especially on a Friday night, is that too long of a show? I like the Raw format, 2.5, 2 hours, 20 minutes. What are your thoughts on that end about the brand split? Is it time to nix that?
So the 3-hour, I think honestly it should be 2 hours, especially since they don't have that flexibility as Netflix. Because with Netflix, it could be, like Triple H said, it could be a 2-hour show, it could be a 3-hour show. It just depends on what story needs to be told that week.
Yeah.
And so I think making SmackDown a 2-hour show makes it feel not so rushed, because it feels like, because they're just trying to fill up 3 hours. And so it's like, we'll put in for 3 hours, or who can we have go give a 30-minute promo to help fill up the time? Because it's like they have the time there. And then if they go over, then it's all right, now we got to rush, we got to hurry. I feel like with 2 hours, it shortens it a little bit. They can actually pick and choose what they want to do. They can be more purposeful with their movements and what they're doing with their superstars. They can do a lot more backstage stuff, I feel like. So I definitely think 2 hours would be better for them, like planning wise, but they don't pay me to make those choices.
Yeah.
As far as brand split, my problem with the brand split is that they have a draft, and then a month later you have people from Raw on SmackDown and SmackDown on Raw. Like, what was the point of doing this whole draft and making it seem so separate when they're coming back and forth anyways?
Right. And then when they do move them, like, these 6 guys are on Raw. And then 2 weeks later, the 2 SmackDown guys that are now on Raw are having a feud again. It's like, this isn't NXT to the main roster. This is SmackDown to Raw, and they're having the same. So, but to me, the number one thing that stands out and why I'm so adamant against that is the tag. Was never a fan of having the two separate tag team championships again. SmackDown does have, they've been pushing the 4 teams, right? But they have the 4, they have the Wyatts, they have Pretty Deadly, which I know they had the injury, but they have Los Garzas and all that stuff. So that's the show with the teams. Raw, it's 3 teams. That's it. And so it's just at some point they're going to run out of matches. You can't keep doing the same exact thing. Makeshift teams, you're going to move a couple of the teams over. So I really feel like unifying those titles is the way to go. It's just not enough competition there.
Either unify the titles or bring up some NXT stars, because they did a whole tag team tournament at NXT and they had like an entire room just full of tag teams. They had at least, I want to say at least 7 tag teams on NXT.
Yeah. Well, I went to a local NXT show, $15, by the way, the best money you can spend on a wrestling show. They came to Melbourne, and 6 of the 9 matches on the card were tag team matches. And so they're there. Like, definitely.
You guys are tag teams.
Yep. And JPJ, let me ask you this question again. This is sidebar, not on the notes, but we have 15 minutes left, so I can throw this in there. Are you surprised we don't see more of the WWE non-utilized guy go to NXT for a bit and kind of like it worked for Baron Corbin? And they brought him back up, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know what to do again." Didn't quite work for Apollo Crews. He's kind of been missing. Hopefully, somebody can locate him. But your thoughts on why we don't see more of the other way around? Because remember that one year where that Survivor Series, NXT was the 3rd brand, and they actually won.
They won everything almost. Yeah. I think that is what NXT they should do more often. I know last year Natalia had a good little run down there. Dolph Ziggler, before he eventually left, was NXT champion for a small little bit. I remember when NXT was first starting, like guys like Tyson Kidd and Cesaro went down there and had like those first few takeovers. Like Tyson Kidd and Cesaro were in the main events of those and things like that. I feel like they should do it a bit more. But with the way NXT is kind of going now, and with the stuff we see with the TNA connection and things like that, I do feel like NXT is kind of, to me, NXT has consistently been the best show under the umbrella of WWE for like a year and a half, consistently. It's tremendous. It's, there's a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. Like there's a lot of good. There's a little bit of bad every week. Like it's fine. It's development. It's whatever. But like consistently, NXT has been the best show for a while. And they're kind of just in a groove. But I think, like you're paying a guy or girl to be on the main roster. If you got nothing for them, what's the hurt of bringing them down there for a month? Not only do you use them and they're earning their contract, but the guys and girls down there who are young get to work with the veteran and pick at their brain and do that for a week, a month, whatever. Like, to me, that is invaluable to me. I feel like it should be happening all the time. And I know they're down there like for agents and working out and do stuff. Like there's people down, like you're with Shawn Michaels, for crying out loud, 24/7. But like that would be cool if I was a young wrestler that was wrestling in NXT and you told me that, I don't know, I'm trying to think, Sheamus was going down there for a month. I'd be like, holy shit. Yeah, can I fight Sheamus at some point? If I can I fight Sheamus, please? I would love to fight that guy.
Please. And I feel like the women, and part of the reason why they've been the most consistent, because there's been some awesome Raws, awesome SmackDowns periodically, but the NXT women's division was, and now that's the thing, they lose Julia, they lose Stephanie Vakir, and they Roxanne Perez. They're probably going to lose Jordan Grace here soon, but there's so much talent still there.
Yeah, and they just got a big one too.
Yeah, and I went to that same NXT Coco show that I went to. They had a 20-woman Royal Rumble match. Mm-hmm. And in that match, the 6 women that competed earlier in the night were not in that match. They had 26 women on a Melbourne, Florida. Where is Melbourne, Florida? Only us know. But they used them all in one 2.5-hour show. It was awesome. And so Kalani Jordan is a great name down there as well that not a lot of people are talking about. Lola Vice, of course, so much more talents. But so let's go here next. We've about 10 minutes left on the podcast. So keeping in mind, and I say this out of joking but I was not happy with this, but keeping in mind, this is a PG show, WrestleMania going back to Vegas from New Orleans and the pause and the obvious choice here. Obviously they're about the dollar at this point. Seeing the Slim Jim logo on the tables and the whiskey on the ladder, it's everywhere. I feel like we're going to get a McDonald's logo on the U.S. title at some point. JPJ, let me ask you this question. Your honest reaction on the move. Does it even matter to you? To me, I don't like it because the crowd in Vegas is just so quiet. It almost like that Corpus Christi, Texas crowd that it's just, you hear nothing. What are your thoughts on that move? Do you hate it as much as I do, or are you kind of indifferent on that?
I think it's a rotten deal for New Orleans. Look, it's clear that Las Vegas came in and that they said, hey, we will give you more money to bring it back here. And WWE said, okay, we don't care that we already had The Rock come out and announce that it was going there. And, you know, people might have already booked things early if they're planners and things like, you know, they don't, it's all about the money, like you said. I think it's a bad look. I don't personally like it. You know, I was going to try to go to New Orleans. I'll probably try to go to Vegas, even though Vegas will probably be way more expensive than it would have been to go to New Orleans, which is unfortunate for like the regular person that's probably trying to go. But I'm kind of more indifferent than upset about it, but I do think it's a bad look. I just think that there's no way for it not to be a bad look for me. And they haven't gone back to back since WrestleMania 4 and 5. You're talking like 35 years ago. We've never gone to back since that. And it's like, it's just, you know, it's just weird. It's
weird. And, you know, there's a couple of cities that seem to always be in the rotation, you know, like, which I'm not hating. I love being in Florida. I got to see the Orlando and the Miami and the Tampa in that, but it just seems like the LA Vegas is going to be getting a lot of these here. And I know there's that push there for London, which didn't quite happen. There's a lot of technicalities to work out there. At the end of the day, it's about how they can get the most dollars they can get in there, and they want to put their brand on everything. And I get it. These press conferences are all the same. You know, we broke this record, we broke that record. At some point, that can't happen. You're not going to be charging $400. I remember the last WrestleMania I went to was $35 for nosebleeds. Now it's at least $400 or $500 at least, probably for something like that. Yeah. So, but yeah. So Tevin, what I wanted to ask you, I mentioned this briefly earlier, but do you feel like there's too much WWE content right now to consume? I know there's TNA, there's AEW, all that stuff, but speaking WWE, focusing primarily this in July, conveniently on the same night that they have the AEW All In show, they booked 3 major events on the same weekend, conveniently. So your thoughts on, is there too much to follow right now, and could we use a little bit of a pause since there's not an off season?
I think WWE as a whole has too much product out. Like if you go all the way from, they have their like Evolve show on Tubi, they have LFG that they just came out with season 1. You have NXT, you got the 2 main brands, and then you have all these PLEs, and then some of them are 2-night PLEs. Like it's a lot. And then if you look at like some of the unused people on the roster, then it kind of starts to get frustrating because it's like, hey, you're not using like Karrion Kross, for example, but Chad Gable and El Grande Americano get 2 matches on the same day. So I think from a fan standpoint, it's a little frustrating to look at it and be like, okay, well, there's a lot going on trying to keep up with everything. And then you add in the social media effect of things. So like R-Truth, like that's on social media. And then his son started posting stuff. And then Superstar started going back and forth. And like, it's a lot to take in. Like, I don't think they understand the magnitude of whenever one of them do something, it's everywhere. And everyone has an opinion about it. And look at us right now. We're talking about it. Right. So, if you look at it as a whole, it's a lot. It's a lot. If you look outside of the flagship shows, there's a lot they got going on.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I wanted to ask you to JPJ in terms of the content. Raw is a little bit more easy to watch now that it's 2.5 hours of the. So are you noticing, or is it just me? The amount of commercials has just greatly increased. Like it's getting more difficult to watch the whole product without watching it on DVR the next day. Like it seems like they're really upping that commercial count. Are you noticing that too?
Yeah. I love watching more commercials on the streaming platform that I pay for the highest level to not get ads on. And I watch more commercials on there than there were when I watched the product on USA. That makes me very happy. I love that. But yeah, and again, we said that's the mode they're in, man. And again, there's certain aspects of it. Like I'm not really bothered about like the sponsored tables or the sponsored ladders we saw. That doesn't bother me. The sponsorships on the ring, that doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some. That's fine. I thought it would bother me more. I'm just kind of used to it. So it is what it is. But like every match is sponsored by something. Every this is sponsored by some, that the turnbuckles are it is, I said this on Beards last week. I was like, how does it feel now with this current regime compared to the people that were running the old one, that the show feels like it has less heart? That's kind of how I feel like this is more of a, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it was run by one of the most heartless guys to ever live, but it had more heart when he was running the show. That does not make sense to me at all.
No, it doesn't. And no one's saying that we want to go back to him by any regard.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah, not at all.
At all.
But it's like, I know what you mean, though. It's
but you know what I mean?
It's true. And I feel like 2024, fantastic. I'm still into the product very much, but it feels like there's not anything right now that you can really, outside of our truth, I guess, that you can really sink your teeth into. It feels like there's just a lot of, let's show this guy, let's do this, let's do that. Now at this point, in terms of The Rock, like that's one thing I'm over with. Like enough for The Rock show up, enough Rock. Like at this point, just stay away at this point. Like let's move on, because the whole start-stop thing with him is just, it did a disservice. He went on Pat McAfee and that whole thing. So I think that needs to just either happen and get it over with, or, not at all at this point. So I want to ask this last question on my end in terms about stopping. I'll start with you, JPJ. The Wyatt Six. I feel like this, I understand there were injuries, but I want to get involved here. And I know they had the video segment this past week, but I just want something to move forward with substance. Like slow build. I get it. Story. I get it. But it feels like how I drive sometimes with I'm a little brake heavy when I drive a little bit, sometimes a little bit too brake heavy. Feels like they're just starting and stopping over and over again with this storyline. So your thoughts on the Wyatt Six and how to get it more interesting as it was the first night when they massacred Chad Gable on live TV, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to get it to that level right away. That's going to take time, just because the way they built that for a long time, everyone was ready for it. So obviously with them being off because of the injury, I get it. It was because of the person who was injured. It's kind of hard to have the group still on TV when the leader is the one that was injured. So I understand. But I mean, I think an easy fix is Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
I think if you make the move, you do it. You put Alexa Bliss with them because they've been teasing it, and that's kind of what everybody thought would be happening ever since she's come back. I think that immediately makes them really important. I'm not saying she has to be the leader, but if she joins and her and Uncle whatever, I feel like Alexa Bliss would revitalize them a little bit and make them, because she still gets one of the biggest pops every time she comes out. People care about her. She's a popular person. I think if you make that move and you put them together, I think that's a way to at least start getting them to matter again immediately.
Yeah. And Tevin, final thoughts on that as well, on the Wyatt Six? Is your interest still there? Is your patience running thin there, or you're okay a little bit longer? I think he nailed it, though. It's Alexa Bliss has got to make that tie-in at some point.
Yeah. Honestly, I forgot about him until they showed back up, because that's how long it's been. And I hope it's not like a rinse and repeat of the same thing where it's like, oh, let's just come in and just wreak havoc. Like, I feel like they should have won like the titles earlier. Like, they should have had some type of traction. Like, maybe not like weekly like how they did in the beginning, because it was like a lot of hype. And I kind of feel like it fills it out really quickly. But I feel like they should have given him something. Make him a number one contender. At least let them like have a titles match and then lose, so we can say, hey, like, they just came in and they made it. Like, how they make it this far that quick? Something to get us talking. Like, it seems like they're just kind of just like, oh yeah, here's this. Like, go now. Like, I forgot about them. It's like, oh, they're just back doing the same thing again. But they do that, the whole like creepy thing to where it's like what they did with Chad Gable. Like, hey, you turn on your family, now we're gonna come for you. Like, if they try to do that again, I can see that kind of building some more interest back on the SmackDown brand now. But they need to do something. They need to do it quick. because I honestly forgot about them until they showed up.
Yeah, I agree. And so thank you guys so much. This has been a really fast hour. It really flew by. So much more I'm sure we could talk about if we had a little bit more time. I wanted to dive into also, maybe we can in the future, the money match of next year or the following year. They've teased it twice now, but how good is Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker going to be when the day comes? Excited. I'm sure we'll get like a fake match on a SmackDown or a Raw, but the big one, the real one that matters, is going to happen at the right time. So definitely looking forward to that. Thank you so much for jumping on with us, and those of you that are here as well, thank you so much. Appreciate it all. You can find us here every Sunday night at 8:00, every Thursday night at 8:30. This Thursday night, we will have another guest as well on the wrestling front. Another guest with at LoveWrestlingCA, Lawrence Cartier is going to be here on Thursday night, 8:30, and then we'll be back with some baseball content the following week. As you guys know, watching this, me and Darren are big Mets fans, so we got some good content coming on down the pipeline. But definitely hope we stay in touch, JPJ and Tevin. As always, it's a pleasure chatting. And until next time, we will see you around the ballpark. Bye, guys.